So if you'd like, we could get started real quick. This is actually a SIG session, so not necessarily something where a formal presentation was put together, although I put some slides together just to encourage the dialogue to get started. What these SIG sessions were, basically the board members decided they wanted to create some special interest groups, so there's about a half a dozen of these going right now, trying to get people engaged into conversations around some different topics, social media being one of them. It's interesting, I don't consider myself a social media expert by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, I'm probably an average social media user. You know, I use Facebook and things like that to keep track of my kids. You know, obviously I'm LinkedIn, keeping track of professional networks, keeping contact with people, things like that. And so basically what I wanted to do, since this is kind of a non-defined session, was just to get things started, I'll run you through a couple of slides and then just open it up for conversation because we only really got 30 minutes. And then if the group thinks this is a topic that would lend itself to an ongoing discussion, what I would do is try and get a sign-up sheet going and maybe create some kind of community where we could actually play with a lot of these social media tools, because what I found through discussion after I was giving this assignment about 2 weeks ago was that most students are not using a lot of social media tools around education unless it's specific maybe to one faculty member, okay, or one course, but not necessarily. I was following somebody or a couple of kids that were hunting through schools looking for which ones they wanted to attend, and I thought it was really fascinating having just gone through a couple of website redesign efforts and everybody hyping on the social media aspects being available on those websites, and then these prospective students' reactions to my questions about, well, what do you think of this one, and what do you think of that one, and would you look at this or would you look at that? I found it really kind of really kind of insightful, I guess, more than anything else. So social media defined, I always have to define something so I know exactly what I'm talking about. Even if I'm not an expert, I'd like to sort of think I can define, at least put things in context. One of the things that got me when I was reading through the social media definition is that it's on the top 10% of lookups. So people are obviously trying to figure out what social media is all about, what it means. It's kind of interesting that we're talking about this right now because the first time the term was used was in 2004, so it's been a decade now that social media has been defined. So kind of interesting to see where it might take us. I had to grab this because this is what campus technology asked us for when we signed up. It says, okay, so here's the social media we're interested in. So of course these are the ones that I grabbed when I started talking to some of the students too. And the students I talked to were kind of an interesting group, mostly just kids that I knew, and not really so much kids because some of them had graduated college already. So prospective students, what they told me, websites rule, and they don't want to hunt and click for stuff. They want it to be searchable, right? So they were still like totally engaged in websites when it was time to go look for colleges and offerings and that kind of stuff. I asked them about Twitter. I was kind of amazed at some of the responses. And just so you know, the students I was talking to, I was actually coming out of the California system. So some of them were in California, some are in Georgia, some are in Virginia and Maryland. Okay, so nobody in the Midwest, but a couple of states east and west. So, but basically they gave me, Twitter? They don't have time to follow anybody on Twitter. And some of them gave me that kind of blank look like I don't really know what that is. The blogs kind of cracked me up too. It's like, who's got time to read all that? And they thought it was kind of very unorganized. And that's from students that were directed to look at some of this stuff, because it's not something they would seek out. I mean, they don't hunt around looking for blog information or experts who might be blogging. It's just not something they do. Google Plus, again, this one, if they were using it in class, they had a faculty member or something kind of driving it, yes. They would join the interest group or the course or whatever. Office 365, it was funny, the reaction I got was, if it comes with the free software, they're ready to start downloading. But beyond that, can you forward my email somewhere? Usually to their Gmail or Yahoo or whatever they've been using. RSS, most of them looked at me like, what is that? And why would I want it? And will it work on my phone? They were really much more into like the Instagram, Flickr, Snapchat. They were all over that kind of thing. Every single one of it had put it on their phone. I just put up there that I had seen some great work done by an art history faculty member who was using Flickr to keep track of all of his things that he wanted students to go through. And final slide, email, they kind of thought that was like the filing cabinet system if they really needed to keep track of something, but not their preferred method. LinkedIn, I was trying to get the students getting ready to graduate to get LinkedIn profiles going. They still hadn't quite grasped how that might help them in the job search, which was kind of surprising to me, because I thought they would be using that one more just to try and make connections as they get out in the job market. And I would think that people would be pointing them at LinkedIn to try and find people in different industries. And then, of course, the original definition talked about videos, so I threw TED up there because it's become so popular that I know they're all looking at it, we're all looking at it. I'm not sure how we would define that as social media other than it is sharing great ideas. And so that said, I would open this up for discussion. Basically, how do we get students to use these social media tools? Are we even using these social media tools the way they could really be leveraged? And how can we, in our types of roles, provide the leadership that's required to get these younger folks to put some of their social media expertise, focus into things that we might be able to guide. Okay, so any comment, discussion? Jump in here, please. We do have a microphone, but pretty small room, so I'm not sure we need to.
I'll jump in and say that we've had a lot of challenges also getting faculty to engage with social media, and so one of the things that we've done that's been moderately effective is running professional development workshops for faculty on how to use Twitter, for example, for professional practice. They're developing their own PLN, personalized learning network.
Mm-hmm.
So we see little spikes in interest in Twitter when we do that, and we also have we are an e-learning department, so we have a departmental Twitter. Our IT department also has Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll see more engagement when we run those workshops, and then it creates a little bit more adoption the next time around. But it's a long process. I think we started about a year ago. And
so that really kind of mirrors the Horizon report that just came out. They have a little section there on social media, and it talks just like that. It's very targeted. Usually driven by some kind of academic technology unit that's pushing the technology, kind of helping define how it can be used.
And I think for students too, it's a really tough sell. You know, I also teach undergraduate students and an intro to communications course, and we use Twitter as part of the course, integrated, you know, instead of the LMS for having them go out and find resources. So instead of like having them shared on a discussion board, they're posting them to Twitter. The learning curve is much higher than you'd expect. It seems like it should be a fairly intuitive tool, but the students invariably, you know, they also have to reflect on the process. So at the start, they kind of indicate they think it's like where you follow like Paris Hilton and other, you know, they don't see it as a place where you would connect with people and where you find useful information. And I would say that in the course of the course, I don't think that they're really transformed and they're thinking about it. It just gives them, again, dipping their toe in the water to see it used in a different way, and they're going to have to find it meaningful for them later.
So I think it's great what you're doing. The question is, what are the tech competencies around social media that students should have? And now really, I think a big part, and you talk about Snapchat and Twitter, another thing is video. I mean, I find I get more effective response from students when we engage in some kind of video capture and other things. But I'm at a loss, because what matters, what improves the outcomes in their educational process, and I'm not sure that we understand that. And then, part of the thing is faculty, we're getting faculty to buy in and say, I'm going to take a risk, because there's a risk of doing something new and transforming it. So I'm confused about how to properly engage, because students come to us with such varied experiences and skill sets because of their own backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. I don't think I've ever seen any social media core competency defined for what you might want to be in some type of program, right? That's quite interesting.
I think it is a different perspective. Sometimes we find ourselves so caught up to sort of adjusting to the students as opposed to defining for the students what those core competencies are to be successful, and making sure that we
get them to define it for us in some.
Well, sometimes that's where we get all that. We rely upon them to define it for us, and we'll be spinning in circles.
Mm-hmm.
Noel Levitt each year, I think they do it every 2 years, does an e-expectations report, and it focuses on the recruitment process. But what it does do is what technology are students using to make their college choices. And it's fascinating to see that it's just over here, it's all over the place. So there isn't sort of, they're not all using Twitter, they're not all using the web. You know, and you look at still, and I'm always fascinated about it, the number one recruitment thing that a college can still do is make that campus visit meaningful. So even with all the technology out there, it's that campus visit
Touch it. Yeah.
is still the number one
And,
information on it.
and if I'm not mistaken, the first place students look is still the web, right? Even on that report. So that kind of held true with my conversations too. And then I've read that the number one thing they're looking for on the web, besides programs and stuff, is they're looking at the pictures. And they're looking at the pictures and seeing, do I fit in that picture?
And that's where the video comes in.
On some of the video stories, we spend a lot of money and time on telling our video stories and making them real. Get students to be involved. There was a period of time where students will create all the content, and that just. But yeah, you have to be found everywhere. So I think that's it. But it's more like, to me again, it goes back to how do you prepare? And I work in a local school here that focuses on education. Well, what do they bring into the classroom? If we're not teaching them these tech skills and tech competencies and how to use it appropriately, how are they educating the next generation?
Yeah, and I think to build on that, I think the big challenge too is making those interactive faculty so it's part of the curriculum. You know, it's one thing for an academic technology department to say, here's some training available to you and scaffolding it, but intentionally and concretely across the curriculum defining that is a real big challenge. Sorry about that. Was that loud enough? Yeah. Okay, got it. I was done, sorry.
No, that's okay. Anyone else have comment? Um, How about the idea of trying to create a group within the campus technologies to start this discussion? Would that be of interest? I think that was what the board was originally intending with these SIG sessions, is to get communities of interest together so that we start these conversations, and maybe they have sessions like this every year to start better defining what the SIG would be doing, how it would function, that kind of thing. Is there interest in that?
If it were something that talked about the competencies, I think that would be very interesting to define what tech competencies sort of are. But I don't know if that gets away. This is about community. Sorry.
You know, I can't afford it either.
If a piece of it were about defining the tech competencies or understanding how other institutions have defined the competencies, that would be very interesting. I know this was titled Communication, so I'm not sure if that meets with people's interest.
Right. That certainly meets with mine, and I'm not sure where that title came from, to tell you the truth.
If we're going beyond recruiting, the thing that I would say is that this conversation of this group is useless without academic leadership in it. And because we have to have that bridge. So like if we're talking about recruiting, we can talk about that and be really effective, and because that's a marketing tool and an engagement tool that way. But I really want to talk about what works and what doesn't. What's going on in the classroom? Using tools for tools' sake makes no sense to me. What advances learning and gets them engaged, gets faculty and students engaged better, and that's the jumping off point. So this group would be more effective to me if we had more faculty voices in it as well, or educator voices in it.
Right. I think you're also, again, echoing what we heard in the New Media Consortium, the Horizon report. You know, how do you scale this stuff up? Because you're seeing really interesting things with social media, but they're all in pockets, right? And it's really hard to go and do the research to see how you would get that those innovations to take off. So.
So can I throw something out?
Please.
I am with the publisher John Wiley, and we're building a social media platform, basically a proprietary learning management system that's based on, has a course stream for students to collaborate. There is a report for instructors in which they can then gauge their student engagement with that platform with each other. And so that can become part of their grade. I think that's one of the things that you were just saying. And so I was interested in coming to this group to see what people would say, how many people are involved in this, whether people are using this in their schools. We've done a lot of focus group testing of the platform and had a lot of interest, particularly on the part of tech innovators, that people in schools who are interested in taking their classroom to the next level, to engage in collaborative learning and to have students really, using those tools. There's a lot of excitement out there. And
so in your focus groups, did you come across this kind of phenomena where a lot of students, they don't want to mix their academic efforts with their social efforts? There's still a barrier there. And it's interesting because when I talk to some people, they're saying, oh, that barrier is starting to come down, and the younger kids coming up now don't see that so much as a strong barrier, I guess, as maybe the 20, 21-year-olds right now, who are pretty adamant about it. It's sort of like not wanting your parents to see everything you put on your Facebook page, right? It's the same kind of attitude. Did you come across any of that?
Not really, actually. We used to have that idea about mobile learning, that students would not want to use their phones to learn, that they wanted to keep their phone for fun or for interaction. Mostly we've done a lot of work with instructors on this, because instructors are ultimately the adopters of the technology and the learning tools that we provide. And they're actually very excited by it because it has a sort of a Facebook interface, and they think it's something students will want to engage in, that that's where they are, and that they think that their students will want to be met there.
So does that actually blend in with these other social media tools? So would that platform blend with their Facebook or their LinkedIn or their?
Not
or
at this
it's-
point, and that's one of the
Yeah.
things I thought maybe we'd be talking about here.
Mhm. Anybody else want to comment? Okay, well, would you like the opportunity to create a type of SIG that would be ongoing through Campus Technologies? Would you want to sign up for something like that? Of interest to try and maybe define or figure out how to get more faculty perspective into the conversation. I'm open to any and all of the above.
There's one place, if you get a quote with the first group in there, there's a second.
Right, I agree. Well, with that, I think we're really about 5 minutes from the end, because these really were pretty short sessions. But again, if anybody wants to jump in, I'm happy to. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, sure.
Somebody here, Samir?
Please.
Actually, I'm not from education, so I work in a company. What I can tell you on this relationship between the engagement of students, or in our case as workers, think at a school as a company. Students learn as we work. So actually work is a job. So what we do in order to engage our workers in social tools. So we have a social tool for knowledge management, and we use this tool to share all the knowledge of the company around the world, basically. It's a sort of professional Facebook. And we have to convince people that it's not, that's a working tool, So we have to engage people in order to convince them that that is useful. So I think that I know it's just our experience. So what we do as a company in order to convince people is just to try to communicate them. So I think that in your case, the faculty should have a communication plan in order to convince students that using social tool is not an extra work for them, it's just a tool through which they can learn more efficiently and fastly. So it's just, I don't know, just our experience. For us, is just having a great communication plan. So just try to keep them on board on what you are doing and saying, oh, you can use this tool in order to learn faster. The professor will be there or whatever, and other students can help you if you have problems. I don't know. That's how we are managing it. I don't know if it fits, but just hints.
Right. Good point. And I see that almost the way we've been dealing with a lot of our learning management platforms, right? A lot of it was build it and hope they would come. and a lot of it was, almost pushing the faculty in that direction, although with very little incentive. And many of them jumping in and leading the way, and others, holding back and not wanting to get involved. And it's just taken time, I guess, to prove that the model, especially like the hybrid model, is functional and does actually assist in the process.
It's just a problem-solving tool. You can also think about it as not only as a tool through share, it's also a tool for problem-solving more efficiently. So it's just, it can be a way.
So the one thing I am challenged by is they were going to see if they could find us a piece of paper so we could take down interest. But anybody happen to have a sheet of paper, we could have people sign if they are interested in. and we could at least start the conversation. Well, yeah, okay. Well, thank you all for your time. I think that's the end of our session. So if you are interested, though, I would encourage you to sign up, and we'll pass that information back to the board, see if they want to keep this type of SIG effort going. Okay? Thank you.